President Trump's tariffs, which have roiled the financial markets, business owners, and just about everyone with a 401k. Texas Senator Ted Cruz has had some tough words to describe what's happening, and we went one-on-one with him on Thursday to discuss this issue.
Well, Jack, I think we face a fork in the road, and there are two different paths we can go down, one of which is very, very good, and one of which is very, very bad. The good path, I think President Trump has a moment where he's got extraordinary leverage. Leverage because of the tariffs that he's announced to negotiate and secure much lower tariffs from our trading partners around the world. There are over 130 nations who have come to the White House now saying, we want to negotiate a deal, we want to lower our tariffs. And President Trump, if he negotiates lower tariff rates with all our trading partners, that will be an historic win for Texas and for the whole country. And so I am urging him energetically, go down that road, and that would be a massive economic victory President Trump could deliver. The other path is high tariffs forever, in perpetuity, high American tariffs and high retaliatory tariffs from our trading partners. That outcome, that path would be a disaster. That would be bad for Texas, bad for America. And so what I'm urging the president is go down path number one, don't go down path number two.
And how do you think he's leaning? Because lately, even yesterday, he said it seems like he's going to retreat even on the China tariffs. Yeah. So what do you see is happening here? Because he has that divergence in the White House of people telling him one thing, people telling him another thing.
2 weeks ago, I spent over an hour on the phone with President Trump. There were 5 other senators on the phone with me. And it was late at night, and we were urging him go down path number one. And in particular, what I urged him, I said, look, pick a country, pick any country, and negotiate a deal. Announce a deal where they slash their tariffs, we slash our tariffs. And I argued to him, look, that will, number one, calm the markets, and number two, give people confidence that we're going down path number one and not path number two. Now, that call lasted past midnight on Tuesday night 2 weeks ago. And I got to say, it was a pretty chippy call. He was arguing back. It was when you have a policy disagreement with the president, he swings back at you. I spend a lot of time with President Trump talking about this and other issues. At the end of the call, we weren't sure how it went, but 12 hours later, at noon on Wednesday, President Trump announced the pause where he halted the tariffs on every country except for China. That was a massive victory. I saw President Trump the next night. I saw him on Thursday. The president was in a fabulous mood. And I told him, I said, Mr. President, you just produced the single greatest one-day increase in the stock market in the history of the country. When he announced the pause, the stock market took off. So I'm going to do everything I can to continue to encourage him. Use the leverage you have. And to be clear, look, the president is absolutely right. There are countries all over the world that have unfair trading agreements with us. They put big tariffs on American goods, and we don't tariff their goods. That's not right, and that's not fair. Because President Trump has started with these tariffs, his negotiating style, he basically whacks you in the head with a 2x4 and then negotiates from there. And that can be very effective. The result is the president's got leverage right now we've never seen a president have on tariffs. And so my hope is 30, 60, 90 days from now, global tariff levels across the world are dramatically lower. And if that happens, that will truly be an historic economic victory.
And will that erase all of the uncertainty that we've seen and all the market volatility? Because people have lost a lot of money.
Look, I don't know if the uncertainty will be resolved. I have spent the last several weeks talking to a lot of business leaders in Texas, a lot of CEOs, a lot of small business leaders, and they're concerned. The uncertainty is a very real concern. I understand that. I'm also urging the administration, look, markets like certainty. Certainty gives those with capital a willingness to invest in capital, to build a new factory, to hire new workers. If there's uncertainty, a lot of people sit on their cash because they don't know what's going to happen. What I will say is I think the battle between the two sides on tariffs, I expect that battle within the administration to play out for some time. And so we may not have absolute clear certainty anytime soon, but I'm going to keep engaging day after day after day to say, let's go down the path to lower tariffs, lower barriers, and opening up markets around the world. Because look, Texas Texas farmers, ranchers, small businesses, manufacturers, we can compete and beat anyone in the world if we have a fair and level playing field. And I think President Trump has a huge opportunity to produce that fair and level playing field.
And the last time you and I spoke, we were in your office in Washington, and it was about Texas being reimbursed by Congress, the $11 billion that Governor Abbott has requested. Is that still part of this conversation? Is that going to happen?
It's very much part of the conversation. I believe it's going to happen. I'm fighting very hard for it to happen. The Texas delegation, we are united in fighting for it to happen. And the reason Texas spent so much money securing the border is Joe Biden and the Democrats opened up the border and refused to do their job. And I think it is only reasonable that Texas should be reimbursed. Right now, the plan is to include that reimbursement in the reconciliation bill. I believe we'll get it done. Now, there are a million ways for it to slip or fall through the cracks, and so I'm going to fight to prevent that. But this bill is going to take some time, so it's going to take vigilance to keep it in there.
We also spoke with Democratic Congresswoman Julie Johnson of Farmers Branch about tariffs, plus Elon Musk's efforts to slash federal spending under DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency.
The funding stoppages have been frozen in the courts, and so a lot of funding has been resumed. I met with the city of Balch Springs this morning, for example, and they had some transportation funding initially paused by the DOGE efforts, but we were able to get that restarted. And so they're able to proceed with some very critical transportation works that were already on the ongoing process. And so we've been able to do a lot of that sort of thing. And, you know, folks are really, really worried. I think we're very anxious about Social Security, very fearful of what the Trump administration is going to do to try to harm our seniors and people with disabilities to be able to obtain the necessary benefits.
And as it relates to, you and I have had conversations before as it relates to DOGE, as far as Congress having the power of the purse and being the body that decides what's cut, what's not cut, what's funded, et cetera. And so I'm wondering, you know, we've got a $36 trillion debt. In your mind, is there room to make cuts in the budget?
Well, there's always an opportunity to make cuts. I mean, and, you know, I am for as resourceful and responsible government as anyone, but there's a process and there's a way to do it. That's through the appropriations process, through 12 different committee structures, that their whole role and purpose is to look at programs item by item by item to determine, hey, has this outlived its useful life? Did this not ever achieve the goals that was intended, or it satisfied all that it was supposed to and it has run its course, or it's still needed and necessary, we need to proceed. The problem is the Trump administration is just engaged with a wrecking ball with disregard for anything that is meaningful, working, and important to the American people. And that's where people are really afraid and very concerned. But yes, I mean, there's opportunities to save money in the budget, but we need to go through the process to make responsible decisions.
And let's talk about tariffs. What do you make of the current situation there? And the president said that his goal is to bring manufacturing back to the United States. So talk to me about his thought there and how it's being executed.
Well, it's just reckless and irresponsible. It's erratic and unpredictable, and businesses can't plan on that. The other thing is, it's not reasonable to expect manufacturing to be able to be happen overnight. We can't just 60 days from now produce goods and services that companies have relied on. You know, people import a lot of things from overseas. You know, Texas is the ninth largest economy in the world because of that. We have a significant trading partner with Mexico and abroad as well. And, you know, a lot of times what will happen is you might manufacture something here, but you order component parts and you order pieces from other countries to help manufacture that ultimate product. And you can't just turn that switch on. And so if we're not able to import or we're not able to plan, then people are not able to fulfill their businesses. And that's why we've seen so many companies threatening to lay off folks, halting orders, stopping. We've seen a tank in the stock market.
There has been some discussion by members of Congress, members of the Senate, about passing a check of sorts on the executive branch as it relates to tariffs. Is that something you agree with? I've also seen some say it needs to be brought back to Congress from the executive branch where it started.
I agree. I think Congress should exercise its oversight. And this is an area of foreign policy that Congress has a check and balance on. And Congress needs to do that. Republicans in Congress so far have abdicated their oversight responsibility to the executive branch. Hopefully in 2026, the Democrats will take back both chambers and we can start exercising our power again.